Tonight, Australia in shock. The tragedy no one saw coming.
The loss that we're all trying to wrap our heads around is huge.
Shane Warne dead from a heart attack, aged 52. His genius on the pitch and controversies offered. A look at the highs and lows of an Aussie legend. As tributes, memories and grief are shared across the globe and closer to home. And later, the damage from Russia's attack on Europe's biggest nuclear power plant revealed as TV crews come under fire.
Journalist!
And relief for families over the government's COVID hospital rules backflip.
This is 9 News Perth with Tracy Vo.
Good evening. The nation is in shock at the sudden death of Shane Warne, the best spin bowler the cricket world has ever seen. The 52-year-old father of 3 was a showman, commentator and national icon, but to most Australians, he was simply Warnie. He was found unconscious in his room on a retreat in Thailand overnight.
A superstar in the game of cricket.
Got him. Clean bowled him.
The end was more like a Hollywood tragedy. Shane Warne, the man who thrilled millions, alone, unresponsive in an island villa, a world away from any cricket ground. When we arrived, this ambulance officer said we saw the victim lying on the lower floor. Police on the island of Koh Samui were called to the Samajana villas at around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon after one of Warne's friends knocked on his door.
He went in there and said, "Come on, we're late, you're going to be late." And then realised that something was wrong and turned him over, gave him CPR mouth to mouth. That lasted about 20 minutes.
But he could not be saved. At 1 a.m. East Coast time, the statement which rebounded around the globe. It is with great sadness we advise that Shane Keith Warne passed away of a suspected heart attack in Koh Samui, Thailand, today, Friday, 4th of March. Shane was found unresponsive in his villa, and despite the best efforts of medical staff, he could not be revived. A tragedy which left the cricket world reeling.
Tough day for everyone all around the globe. We've lost a true hero, legend and icon of the game in Shane Warne.
They pressed pause on an historic test match in Pakistan as the Australian cricket captain faced up to one of the sport's darkest days.
The loss that we're all trying to wrap our heads around is huge. We all grew up watching Warnie, idolising him. We all had posters on his wall, had his earrings.
At 52, the king of spin dead. And his fans in mourning.
I woke up and I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
They descended on Warnie's second home, the MCG, the scene of Boxing Day heroics, a hat-trick, a record 700 test wicket, and now a stand in his name.
We will be renaming the Great Southern Stand, the SK Warne Stand, and we'll be doing that as soon as we possibly can.
That will go with his statue, today a shrine for cricket lovers who were hit for 6.
Saw it early in the morning, really early. So I haven't been asleep. Yeah.
Just 4 days ago, Warne announced on Instagram he was on a health kick. Operation Shred had started. The goal by July is to get back to this shape from a few years ago. And that's why he was in Thailand at this wellness retreat. 2 days ago, he posted, "Good night from Koh Samui." His last message on social media yesterday, Warnie remembering another cricketing great, Rod Marsh, who died the same way. Rod cared deeply about cricket and gave so much, especially to Australia and England players. R.I.P. mate. Today it was cricket royalty lining up to honour the greatest ever spin bowler.
I just loved him. I really loved the fact that I knew this guy as a slow bowler, but also as a character in the game and as a mate.
One test captain after another. Hard to put this into words. I first met him when I was 15 at the academy. He gave me my nickname, the greatest bowler I ever played with or against.
Just something about him that, is engaging, he just gets you talking and you just like him straight away.
Michael Clarke was not just a teammate, but best friend. King, he called him, And this is so unfair, R.I.P. Buddy.
I think Warne's the best bowler there's ever been. Not too many players lasted 5 hours against our attack with Warne in it.
And with Glenn McGrath at the other end, it spelt Australian dominance. There never seems to be a dull moment. He was a great mate and a loving father.
The highlight of my cricketing career was to wicket-keep to Shane Warne.
Merv Hughes, I simply don't have the words. And a salute from a Prime Minister in isolation.
A good mate, a dad and a fellow Australian. Rest in peace, Shane Warne. Thanks, mate.
And back where it all began as an 11-year-old, Shane Warne, the Sandringham Junior who played for St Kilda. Today, black armbands and a minute's silence for a suburban leg spinner who mesmerised the cricketing world.
He was always had time for everyone. Lovely bloke, you know. He was a larrikin, but everyone loved him.
There were more tributes at the Sydney Cricket Ground where Warne's Test career began, long before these young fans were born.
I was at the Sydney Ashes Test and I got a fist bump from Shane Warne.
Shane Warne's family has said they're in shock and in need of privacy. Foreign Affairs officials are now en route to the island of Koh Samui to assist in the repatriation of his body. It's hoped the father of three will be home in a matter of days. And then will begin the official farewell to a cricketer whose passing was as unexpected as any ball he ever bowled. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
The Sydney Morning Herald Southeast Asia correspondent Chris Barrett is in Koh Samui. He filed this report a short time ago.
I'm here outside Beaupud Police Station in Koh Samui, and it's here where the shock death of Shane Warne is being investigated. Police say they're not treating his death as suspicious, but they're expecting his friends who found him unconscious in his villa yesterday afternoon to come along here today to provide some more information. Warne's body was taken to a government hospital last night on the other side of the island, and they're waiting for advice from either police or from Warne's family about whether or not to conduct an autopsy. Meanwhile, at the villa where Warne was found, about 10 minutes north of here, there's security guarding the entrance and expected to remain that way for some time.
It's unlikely we'll ever see another sporting figure like Shane Warne. While his cricket record speaks for itself, his career was punctuated by controversies. Invariably, he bounced back, support from the Australian public unwavering. Tony Jones looks back on an extraordinary career.
It's 1992, and who could have imagined this chubby bowler from the Bayside suburbs would become one of the greatest cricketers in the game's history?
I just feel very proud, and it's just a privilege to play. But, you know, I didn't never really expected to play.
The cap might not have been the best of fits, but Shane Warne would comfortably go on to wear it in 145 tests. The first against India at the SCG, a less than glorious debut, taking 1 for 150.
You don't realise how much it is, you know, till you've actually gone through it, how nerve-wracking it is and what it actually feels like. It's a tremendous feeling.
It wasn't until the following summer, when Warne stepped onto the MCG for the Boxing Day test against the West Indies, that he would truly announce himself as a future star. 7 for 52.
And there it is, a great victory for Australia and a tremendous day's work for Shane Warne.
Having had a taste of the adulation and the newfound fame, there would be no turning back.
There we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
He was like a magician, and we were mesmerised by his trickery.
All of our coaching things that we do in Victoria, the easiest way to do it is all we do is you have 2 fingers down, 2 up, and you sort of put the ball in there. And that's how it's a bit bigger than normal, but that's the basic sort of grip.
But stardom brings scrutiny, and few sportsmen have achieved such greatness or generated such controversy. He lived in a fishbowl, and at times the waters got very murky.
I've got nothing to say, thank you.
His cricket made him a back page regular. His antics off the field gave him his quota of front pages. While some were mere mishaps, texting, smoking and general yahooing, other controversies were far more serious. career-threatening. In 1995, he and Mark Waugh faced the media amid revelations they'd passed on pitch and weather conditions to an illegal bookmaker 3 years earlier.
I deeply regret this action off the field and wish to state that playing for Australia is the greatest honour I've had in my cricketing career.
8 years later, Warne was sent home from South Africa having returned a positive drugs test. He'd taken a diuretic in a bid to lose weight, an error of judgment that would see him banned from the game for a year.
Absolutely devastated.
Few thought Shane Warne was an actual drug cheat, and although his reputation did take a battering, he said about repairing it once the ban had expired.
I think, like anything, when it's taken away from you from 12 months, you realise how much you miss it.
His comeback series was against Sri Lanka. In 3 tests, he took 26 wickets, including 2 10-wicket hauls. Warney was back. He was again rewriting history. But off the field, more trouble loomed, this time marital problems. In June of 2005, Warne split with wife Simone.
We've just got to work out what we both want and which way we're going to go.
They had 3 young children, Warne dedicating whatever time he had to them. There was a true insight into his parenting in this documentary titled Shane, which premiered only a week ago on Amazon Prime.
Obviously, Mum was around more because she was based in Melbourne, but Dad's job took him overseas and nothing can change that. That was just it. I just remember always seeing him on TV instead of like face-to-face because he was always travelling a lot.
It was personal stuff, raw and riveting.
He's going down as one of the greatest ever cricketers of all time. So I can appreciate those sacrifices he made when we were younger for him to be Shane Warne, who he is today.
Whatever personal issues Warne was dealing with, there was never a hint of evidence that it impacted on his cricket. On a summer's night in 1999, he turned peacemaker when the MCG crowd turned feral.
It's very sad.
It'd be very sad if the game doesn't go on.
In the years leading up to his retirement, at the end of the 06-07 Ashes series, he continued to chalk up the milestones.
Bowled him. Bowled him this time.
Even when he did leave the Test arena for the final time, Warne wasn't completely lost to the game. He was brought in to captain the Melbourne Stars in the Big Bash. Mic'd up, he took us into his office.
You might be trying to shake the sweep one after that first one, or maybe even go inside out again a bit harder, so I might try and slide one in there. Past.
He mostly gave us an insight into his cricketing genius. There was the odd occasion, however, when he flipped his lid.
Grab some more people. You, mate.
It stood to reason that Warne's wit, wisdom and general charm would draw him to the commentary box.
You do a mean Greggy yourself.
I don't mind. Well, here we go.
Yes, want to see it.
Tuesday.
From Nine's Wide World of Sports to Sky Sports in the UK and Fox Sports here in Australia. In a media sense, Warne was a wanted man. From head to toe.
There's only one thing that really worries me, and that's hair loss.
He even had his own night show. His mates were his guests.
Warnie, I don't have to say this, but you were probably his favourite. He thought the world of you, as so many people do.
Warne's TV show reel also included a stint on Kath and Kin.
Was that a flipper? Yeah. Sorry I'm late. I've been practising a bit cricket as a surprise for you, Sharon.
Shane Warne was a once-in-a-lifetime cricketer, and having endured a string of controversies, he had no time for political correctness. It denied him the one box he so desperately wanted to tick, captaining his country. For all his fame and fortune, Warne remained a man of the people, and we, the people, couldn't get enough of him.
Got him! There it is! Wicket number 700! And they can't catch him!
I liked loud music, I was smoked, I drank, and I bowled a bit of leg spin, you know, that was sort of me.
Tony Jones, 9 News.
And Shane Warne's memory will live on at the MCG, where a very special honour is planned. Reid Butler explains.
Well, for Warnie, there could be no greater tribute. He will be immortalised here at the MCG, essentially becoming part of the stadium that played host to so many of his most memorable career highlights. The Great Southern Stand behind me, with close to 50,000 seats for spectators, will be no more and instead forever be known as the SK Warne Stand. Now, outside of the MCG, where the Shane Warne statue is, that is where tributes are continuing to grow this evening. There are beautiful flowers as well as cards, and also the occasional slice of pizza pizza, cans of VB and even the odd pack of cigarettes. All very Warnie and all helping bring a little smile to the face of the very sad fans who've gathered here today. The Victorian Premier, Daniel Andrews, has offered the Warne family a state funeral. That service would likely be held here at the MCG. A fitting send-off for this cricketing champion. One final showing in the stadium he made his own.
Well, from the MCG to Lords and every oval in between, the king of spin reigned supreme. Shane Warne found friends in Hollywood, among royalty and on stage, and even his rivals couldn't help but love him.
It was the ball that announced the name Shane Keith Warne to the United Kingdom.
And he's done it.
English legend Mike Gadding bamboozled.
He always said to me, he said, "Thanks, mate, for missing it." I said, "I didn't mean to, I can assure you."
The ball of the century was the birth of a legend.
And obviously, as a kid growing up, was a massive idol of mine. Someone who wanted to emulate the way he could win a game on his own.
The English playing a warm-up match in Antigua, West Indies. The team stopping mid-match for a minute's silence when news of Warnie's death broke.
I'm afraid we have some devastating, tragic news. Arguably the greatest spin bowler in cricket history, Shane Warne, has died at the age of 52.
Warnie was treated as royalty in Britain, especially as a cricketing prince who stole an English princess. His relationship with actress Liz Hurley, a dream for the press.
When will you be seeing Shane, Liz?
Proposing on James Packer's boat with a $60,000 sapphire ring. The couple never made it the distance.
And it was the happiest time of my life. I was madly in love with Elizabeth and we're still friends now.
Warnie's leg breaks were one thing, but his tsunami of character drew some of the world's biggest names into his orbit. Today, from Ed Sheeran, the world keeps taking incredible people away. I'll bloody miss you, mate. Absolutely gutted. A cricket-mad Rolling Stone, Mick Jagger, I'm so saddened. He brought such joy to the game and was the greatest spin bowler ever. His star power was incredible.
Australian rules football, that's all I ever wanted to do as a kid.
I know.
Right, yeah,
so your life, in a sense, has been a failure.
A close friendship with Chris Martin of Coldplay. Warnie even played the harmonica with them at a stadium show. From Russell Crowe, having a hard time accepting it. Genius player, grand company, loyal friend. Sir Elton John. Shane was a magical bowler and such huge fun. Kylie Minogue. Valet Warnie, the one and only king of spin. Even Fergie, the Duchess of York. I'm so sad to hear about Shane Warne.
He was an immense character. And talk about rock and roll. He knew everybody. You know, people say, "Oh, I've got his number here. I'll give him a ring." Male or female, he had the lot.
Just like in Australia, throughout the cricketing world, it was pure disbelief. From India, Sachin Tendulkar, shocked, stunned and miserable. Virat Kohli, I cannot process the passing of this great of our sport, greatest to turn the cricket ball. The West Indies, Sir Viv Richards. There are no words to describe what I feel right now, a huge loss for cricket. Brian Lara, I literally don't know how to sum up this situation. My friend is gone. Pakistan, Wasim Akram, I am shocked and extremely sad to hear about the sudden death of my friend Warnie. Waqar Younis, the biggest superstar of my generation, gone. Goodbye, legend.
It hasn't sunk in, to be honest, and I don't think it's going to sink in for quite some time.
Then there was his spin bowling nemesis, the only man to take more test wickets than Warnie, Murali from Sri Lanka.
I was asking the people, is it true or it's a fake news? So that kind of a thing, and it was shocking. The world is going to miss him because the cricket fraternity. So very sad.
Warnie was enemy number one for the Barmy Army, with sledges like he's fat, he's round, he bounces on the ground. Today the Pommy supporters simply said, we only wished he was English.
A man who, you know, had such vitality and full of energy and life. I was totally stunned. I don't think I'd ever been more shocked in my life.
England is a country Shane Warne loved, and it's clear it loved him back. A solitary candle left outside Lords on a day when it felt like the world stopped spinning.
And Mark Burrows is at Lord's in London for us tonight. Mark, Australia is in shock. What's the reaction been like in Britain?
Well, Trace, it's been phenomenal. I can't tell you the outpouring of tributes. It's been unbelievable. Last night on the evening news after the Ukraine story, second story was the passing of Shane Warne. In this morning's Daily Telegraph here, there are eight stories on Shane Warne's life. One of the best was written by the former English captain, Michael Vaughan, who said he was a normal guy. He could do incredible things. And this morning, the Sun newspaper pushing Ukraine to as a sidebar. Shane Warne, I smoked, I drank, I bowled. Says it all. Just an amazing amount of tributes coming out of here, and it's going to continue, Trace.
Indeed, right around the world as well. Mark Burrows, thank you. Time for a check of the weather now with Elizabeth Creasy. Liz, we've had a return of warmer, summer-like weather.
Well, Tracy, the sun was out for the first day of the long weekend and the mercury was back up in the 30s this afternoon, with the city recording a maximum of 32.8 degrees at 2:45. It was a warm start to the day as well, with a low of 17.5 around 6:30 this morning. Warm easterly winds picked up overnight, which helped to drive the temperature up today, and that is a pattern that will continue for the next week or so, with much warmer weather forecast over the next few days. But I will have all of those details for you a little later, Tracy.
We'll see you soon, Liz. Thank you very much. Next, bombard cities into submission. The fresh concerns about Russia's plans in Ukraine. Plus, relief for WA families heartbroken over COVID hospital rules. A bikie badly injured during a freeway motorcycle run. And a win for travellers headed to Bali from Monday. 24 hours after a nuclear disaster was narrowly avoided in Ukraine, there's a warning Russian forces might be planning to increase their attacks on major cities. It's been 10 days since Vladimir Putin's invasion began, and he's showing no signs of slowing.
As the smoke clears from what could have been global disaster. An alarming look at just how close it came. This, damage from heavy weapons at Europe's largest nuclear plant. A hole burnt right through the corridor between reactors. Inside, terrified workers, pleading with Russian forces to stop firing. Warning the troops, you are endangering the safety of the entire world.
It is for the first time in our history that the terrorist state turned to nuclear terrorism.
With Russians now in control at Zaporizhzhia, staff say they're carrying out their roles at gunpoint. The Ukrainian energy minister speaking to 9 News from a bunker in the capital.
That staff is surrounded by Russian militaries. What they're doing has no explanation.
No radioactive material was released, a nuclear near miss.
We have survived the night that could have stopped the history of Ukraine and Europe.
The UN Security Council holding an emergency meeting where, with the world watching, Russia's ambassador denied its involvement.
We have once again heard lies about how Russian troops attacked the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
The American embassy in Ukraine has called the attack a war crime.
If we allow those principles to be violated with impunity, then we're opening a Pandora's box.
The US stopping short of military engagement.
The only way to actually implement something like a no-fly zone is to send NATO planes into Ukrainian airspace and to shoot down Russian planes, and that could lead to a full-fledged war.
Vladimir Putin making his own statement, telling his neighbours he has no bad intentions towards them.
And I would also advise them not to escalate the situation.
But on his biggest neighbour, another day of relentless attacks. The gunfire constant and indiscriminate. A Sky News team filmed as they were ambushed by militants.
Journalist! Whoa! Stop!
They somehow escaped with their lives. But on Russian television, a different picture. Here, troops deliver humanitarian aid, the message working on many at home.
Да, Киев никто не бомбит, я этому не верю. Путин такого не мог сделать. Напасть на Украину тем более.
Moscow's Department of Education releasing a video painting NATO as the aggressor.
Мы поговорим
о событиях на Украине.
Access to information getting harder by the day. Twitter and Facebook have now been banned shortly after the Kremlin introduced a 15-year jail sentence for spreading so-called false information. This independent TV station shutting down, its entire staff resigning on air. The station playing Swan Lake, the same ballet broadcast on state TV during the fall of the Soviet Union. International news, including the BBC, also blocked, the network choosing to close down its Russia bureau, fearing for the safety of its staff. But as foreign news is shut out of Russia, foreign fighters are coming in to Ukraine.
So this will be the front lines.
US soldier David Brymer is one of many international fighters arriving in Lviv to help train young Ukrainians heading into battle.
Whatever happens, we will be prepared as we possibly can be, and we will be here until it's over.
The terrain here has shifted. Their resolve has not.
So that's another air raid siren. A warning for everyone to get inside and underground, so we're going to go and find a bunker.
Even here, the threat of Russian reconnaissance or attack is ever present. The city's historic monuments tightly wrapped to protect them from explosions. Ukraine's culture under threat, its people refusing to fall.
Thank you. We will win.
Amelia Adams is in the city of Lviv in western Ukraine. Amelia, today there will finally be some reprieve.
Yeah, Tracy, the first humanitarian corridors are right now opened up in a couple of cities that have been under heavy bombardment just to get civilians out and to get supplies in. But that is limited and it's temporary. And US officials say Moscow is preparing to send about 1,000 mercenaries here to Ukraine to help boost the flagging Russian troops. The warning tonight, Vladimir Putin is preparing to bombard cities into submission. A third round of peace talks is on the cards sometime this weekend, but I have to say, Tivo, there is really not very much optimism here right now about a breakthrough or a ceasefire.
Indeed, it's waning. All right, Amelia, thank you. West Australians will no longer be kept away from their dying loved ones in hospital in a 24-hour policy turnaround. The government backflipped on its strict visitor ban following public backlash, which has left many asking why it was there in the first place.
They shared their grief in a plea for compassion, and now their calls have been answered.
Last night, the Chief Health Officer issued revised visitor guidelines to public hospitals.
The government backing down on its harsh hospital lockout just a day after it was introduced. From 10 a.m. tomorrow, visitors not deemed essential will again be allowed to see their sick loved ones, but only one at a time during designated hours.
To be clear, this means a patient can have up to 2 visitors per day, but they must come at different times.
While essential visitors can now stay all hours of the day. That's birth partners, parents or carers of children or people with a disability, and support persons for critically ill and palliative care patients.
The rules were in place to protect very vulnerable patients in hospital.
Vulnerable patients like Colin Minson, who just wants to see his family during his dying days.
It was clear that the rules that they'd imposed were heartless. Are the restrictions that we see imposed in these phase 2 restrictions based on health advice, or are they based on popularity and opinion polling?
WA recorded nearly 2,300 new cases today, only 10 of them travel-related, and 28 people are in hospital with COVID, 7 more than yesterday, but still none in intensive care. Louise Rennie, 9 News.
A Mongol's bikie is being treated in hospital after he was knocked off his motorcycle and run over on the Kwinana freeway overnight. More than a dozen of the club's members were riding around 7:30 last night when he lost control of his motorbike in Como. The freeway northbound was reduced to 2 lanes while police investigated. Tonight, the man in his 50s is stable in Royal Perth Hospital. In less than 48 hours, travellers headed to Bali will no longer need to quarantine, the island scrapping most of its COVID rules on Monday. International visitors will still need to be vaccinated, have health insurance and return a negative test, but they'll be able to get out and explore Bali on the day they touch down. Up next, the new way councils are protecting Perth properties from bushfires, plus the latest on the blaze burning near Bindoon. The driver charged over an alleged hit and run that left a man for dead in Rockingham. A rare show of support from the Queen, her private donation that's made headlines. And later, the everyday supplement helping prevent premature births. WA's hellish bushfire season is expected to last well into autumn, sparking a new type of operation to slash the risk. The city of Kwinana is spending $400,000 using machinery to clear suburban streets instead of controlled burns.
Perth's rural outskirts in the danger zone. Wildfires devastating communities with frightening speed, with more bushland to burn through. For the city of Kwinana, threatened by 70 blazes last year alone and a dozen this year already, working to stay ahead of the danger zone is a constant battle.
Peace of mind for the residents, especially in the rural area, is so important.
Cleaning up the streets to cut down the threat. Targeting dry grass and scrub, fuel for fast-moving fires, lining roads and verges. Often, the spark point for flames leads straight to nearby homes by connecting bushland. Close by properties making the traditional method of prescribed burns riskier, thick smoke or a potential runaway blaze too close for comfort.
Community safety is the #1 priority.
Instead, crews are getting on the tools to get the job done. Using machinery to clear, mulch and relay the city-owned strips.
This is a more efficient way of doing it.
Currently making 84 different stretches of roads safer, all of them running through an area in or completely surrounded by bushfire-prone land. Clearing small bushes and shrubs from the side of the road in this high-risk zone is crucial to stopping potential fires from spreading to surrounding homes and properties.
It's just that added safety in an area that has such a healthy canopy of trees.
The safety works will take place right through the year. Ashton Hiron, 9 News.
Firefighters have worked through the night to contain a bushfire burning north of Perth. The blaze broke out on Grey Road in Bindoon yesterday afternoon, burning more than 200 hectares, threatening lives and homes.
When we got here, we couldn't get back on the property, but we asked them about the dogs. They sent in a fiery, went to check it out, grabbed the dogs for us, brought them back out. So, yeah, brilliant.
A watch and act alert remains in place. The cause is accidental. A pedestrian has been rushed to hospital after being hit by a car in Rockingham in the early hours of this morning. Police say the man in his 30s suffered serious head injuries when he was struck in the hit and run around 3 a.m. A 31-year-old man who was allegedly driving the car has been charged with failing to stop and render assistance and will appear in court next month. ISIS has claimed responsibility for a suicide bomb attack on a mosque in Pakistan that killed at least 56 people. More than 190 others were injured in the blast. They had gathered for Friday prayers. The violence unfolding only 2 hours away from Rawalpindi, where the Australian cricket team is playing their first test match on Pakistani soil in 24 years. It's been revealed the Queen has made a private donation to support humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. The contribution to the Disasters Emergency Committee, described as generous, has been seen as a rare break with the royal family tradition of remaining neutral on world politics. Other royal family members have condemned Russia's invasion of the country. Coming up on 9 News, Australia's world-leading study to stop premature births, plus how it works and what our scientists are screening for next. And thousands of volunteers begin the huge flood clean-up in Brisbane. But Bonnie Rayner is here with sport now. Bonnie, another difficult day for Australian cricket.
Yeah, it was, Tracy. A sense of deja vu, players doing it tough on and off the field in Pakistan. Another dreadful day in the dirt as the hosts helped themselves to a terrific total. The decimated Dockers humbled by the Demons on their home deck, and an amazing Aussie fight back brings Davis delight for the green and gold. The Aussies are continuing to toil away late on day 2 in Pakistan. Captain Pat Cummins managing the sole breakthrough in the middle session. Pakistan's top order cashing in on a batting-friendly deck. A shattering sense of deja vu. Yesterday, a reflective moment for Rod Marsh. Today, double black armbands in honour of Shane Warne.
Absolutely. We will miss you, Shane.
The players also acknowledging the victims of a bomb strike overnight in Peshawar, just 3 hours away, trying to focus on the field on a distressing day.
In Warnie's words, let's make it happen. And that's what they have to do today. They have to make it happen.
The Aussies' first job, removing Imam-ul-Haq after his stunning maiden test ton.
Finally, 3 figures to his name.
Proving no easy task, the left-hander adding just 6 runs in the opening hour and offering up a chance.
Oh, here we go. There's a big, big noise on that time.
Saved by a non-review, continuing to another milestone.
And that is 150, and he is not done yet.
The Aussies still searching for a breakthrough, the Pakistan Batathon marching on.
It is 1800. Outstanding work from Azhar Ali.
Captain Cummins toiling away, eventually earning some reward.
Now that's pretty close. Up goes that finger. There it is.
Claiming the sole wicket to fall before tea on day 2. The scalp only inviting Captain Babar Azam to join the run fest.
Very good sweep.
The Aussies patiently waiting for their turn to dig in on the flat deck. Australia have opened their Women's World Cup campaign with a 12-run win over England. The Aussies racing to 3 for 310 off the back of a Rachel Haynes century.
Yeah, I don't think I was moving too great the last half of the 50 overs in the field. But yeah, England were fantastic today. I think they really took the game to us. Probably some good lessons for us as a group, but really nice to get our first win away.
Perth Scorchers leg spinner Alana King with a touching tribute to Shane Warne, taking a team-high 3 wickets. The Dockers have welcomed back a host of experienced players for tomorrow's pre-season derby at Optus Stadium, including David Mundy and Michael Walters. The injury hit Eagles naming a fresh face who only landed from Melbourne on Thursday.
Straight off the plane and into the Eagles' 26-man squad, former Tiger Patrick Naish with one opportunity to push his case before Wednesday's list deadline. The midfielder part of a new-look outfit. Recently signed forward Hugh Dixon, again lining up against his old team, hoping to continue his impressive start to life at the Nest.
Auditioning for a role at the team up the road. And the audition is going ever so well.
Samo Petrevski-Seaton also in, overcoming a knee issue. Fresh off a 97-point win last weekend, the Dockers welcoming a wealth of talent back. Sean Darcy, Michael Walters, David Mundy and Luke Ryan returning. Joel Weston and Nathan O'Driscoll among the unlucky omissions. As expected, still no Nat Fyfe. The pre-season action continuing over East. Jack Revolt up to his usual tricks with 3 goals. So too, Dustin Martin.
Martin, little fend off, don't argue.
Richmond 25-point winners over Hawthorn. West Aussie Mitch Georgiades impressing in the Adelaide Showdown, booting a game-high 3 goals. The Power beating the Crows by 37 points.
Oh, time ran out and McEntee's pounced.
And last night, Brisbane scraping home by 1 straight kick against last year's runner-ups. Michael Stamp, 9 News.
The Dockers are in danger of missing AFLW finals after an 88-point humbling by Melbourne. Captain Daisy Pearce kicking 5 goals as her team ran riot over the hapless Dockers. The Demons breaking the record for the league's highest team total.
It's taken 6 seasons of AFLW, but a team finally cracks the magical century, and it's Melbourne.
Fremantle slipping to 5th on the ladder, next facing Gold Coast on Sunday week. Alex Diminor and Tanasi Kokonakis have led Australia to the David Cup finals with a memorable comeback win over Hungary. Down 1-0, the Demon keeping the Aussies alive with a gutsy singles victory. Kokonakis sealing the tie 3-2 in straight sets.
I couldn't have asked for more to start the year. This is Davis Cup so different, you know, in those singles tournaments, ATPs, you're playing for yourself. Here you've got, it feels like the whole country backing you and supporting you. It's a different type of pressure.
The finals will take place in September. Wonderful pictures there. A great Davis Cup result, but just a tragic day for Australian cricket. And
I think we're still all in shock, but yeah, terribly sad couple of days for cricket indeed. All right, Bonnie, thank you very much. Next, it's mostly used to treat arthritis, but omega-3 also has huge benefits for expectant mothers. That story coming up. Queensland's mud army hits the streets for a mammoth clean-up, and Elizabeth Creasy, it's warming up again.
Tracy, we will have summer-like conditions for the week ahead, with the heat peaking on Thursday at 37 degrees. I'll have those details soon.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the biggest headlines making news in Perth this evening. Legendary cricketer Shane Warne has died of a suspected heart attack in Thailand. He was just 52 years old. His shock death leading to a huge outpouring of grief here and around the world. Moscow has announced a temporary ceasefire in 2 Ukrainian cities in the country's southeast, but Ukrainian authorities say Russia isn't observing it. And from tomorrow, families will be allowed into hospitals to visit sick loved ones, the government backing down on its strict hospital visitor ban. A world-leading program that screens for omega-3 during pregnancy to cut the number of premature births could be rolled out nationally. A South Australian-based program finding around 17% of expectant mothers are low in the critically important fatty acid.
Omega-3 in a bottle, often used to reduce inflammation in arthritis. In pregnancy, the fatty acids are not only critical for the developing fetal brain, but can prevent premature births and associated health problems.
It's possible to reduce the risk of preterm birth less than 37 weeks by about 11%. But preterm birth less than 34 weeks by about 42%.
Boosting levels of omega-3 in expectant mums who are deficient are now part of pregnancy guidelines. Since May last year, South Australia Pathology has offered free omega-3 screening as part of the standard early pregnancy blood tests to identify those at risk.
About 17% of women are screening low. The women that are low or depleted will need about 1 gram of the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids.
The dose is less potent than supplements for sore joints, but they're more effective than standard pregnancy multivitamins.
Some of which do have some omega-3 in there, but the dose is very low.
About a third of pregnant women have so far taken part in the state program. More data needs to be collected, but the aim is to roll out routine screening across the country. That plan supported by Sin McGrath, who is expecting her first child.
Myself being 28 weeks pregnant now, going into my antenatal appointments, this definitely isn't something that has been spoken about.
Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
Thousands of volunteers have hit the streets of Brisbane as the city begins a mammoth clean-up after being inundated by floodwaters. Groups were bussed to small businesses, not-for-profits and damaged homes to help people get back on their feet. The Mud Army donning gumboots and arming themselves with shovels, mops and brooms to take on the back-breaking work. Stay with us. Elizabeth Creasy is next with all your weather details for the rest of the long weekend.
Welcome back. It's been a warm and sunny start to the long weekend, with the city recording a maximum of almost 33 degrees this afternoon, and at the moment it's hovering around 25. Now on the satellite, a ridge of high pressure is building over the south of the state, so we will get more blue skies over the next few days, and a trough down the west coast will continue to generate warmer conditions. Looking interstate tomorrow, and the rain will be very heavy in Sydney, between 35 and 60 mils forecast there. Brisbane also in the firing line with up to 50 millimetres of rain. Back in WA, the weather has settled through the Kimberley and Pilbara. Exmouth, Mubblebar and Karratha all hitting 37 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Further south, that heat will extend into Geraldton, 36 degrees there. A little cooler in Jurien at 33. It is looking pretty good on the waters around Perth, with seas and swell to 1.5 metres, and winds will be easterly in the morning. It is going to remain pretty warm tonight, with an overnight low of 20 degrees forecast tomorrow morning, and we'll have a top of about 34 in the afternoon. Conditions looking very similar on Monday as we see out the long weekend, 20 to 34 degrees. Starting to heat up on Wednesday with a top of 35. Thursday is looking like the hottest day of the week, with a maximum of 37 degrees. Temperatures remaining in the 30s on both Friday and Saturday. So we might officially be in autumn, Tracy, but it certainly still feels like summer.
It is sticking around indeed. All right, Liz, thanks very much. That's 9 News this Saturday. Thanks for your company. Stay with us for A Current Affair with a special 1-hour tribute to Shane Warne. From the team, enjoy your evening and good night.